Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to talk to you about all the books that I've purchased for my 4th grade classroom this year. This will give you some insight into my classroom so that when I pull little clips from my room in the future, you'll have a little bit of an idea of what it is that I'm doing. This year, my teammate and I have decided that we're going to focus on genre projects because we want our students to experience more genres, and last year was our first year really back in the building after COVID. So this year we're going to be a little bit more rigorous in our expectations, and one of the things we want to do is give kids exposure to different genres that they wouldn't necessarily pick up on their own. For example, a lot of my kids talk about how they like mysteries, but they haven't actually read a mystery book outside of maybe the occasional Goosebumps. And I've also noticed that a lot of my students focus on graphic novels, and I understand that graphic novels are just as good as regular novels. However, the amount of diversity that I have in graphic novels in my room is pretty limited. So through genre projects, my goal is to get kids exposed to more genres, different kinds of books, and different authors, and hopefully get them engaged in a series they wouldn't have otherwise picked up. These books are not going to be in any particular order. I have them in a box down at my feet. So as I pull them out of the box, I will show them to you and talk to you a little bit about why I chose them. The first couple books that I have are the Babysitters Little Sister novels. Last year, I noticed that a lot of my kids were getting into the Babysitters Club graphic novels. So I think by bringing these into the classroom, it's going to be a little bit of a bridge between the graphic novel and a series and get them engaged in a chapter book. I have a few Boxcar Children novels. These are mysteries, which will work for our genre project because one of the things that we are going to focus on is reading a mystery. A lot of my students like the idea of trying to figure things out, like puzzles, as they go. So I think mysteries are going to be a huge hit throughout our genre project. The next book I have is one of my favorites. It is Bunicula. This is a story that is also mystery. It is about a bunny that drinks the juice out of the vegetables in a garden. It's a lot of fun. It's a super thin read. I've read it with 4th graders before and it was a huge hit. So I am adding a couple copies of Bunicula to my classroom library because I think it's going to be a really engaging book for my students. Again, continuing the mystery genre, I have A to Z Mysteries. I purchased the first 4 because I was looking for them on Book Outlet, and so a couple of them I couldn't find. But I've got the first 4. I am going to add to my classroom library as the year goes on, so eventually I'd like to have all of them. But first 4 A to Z Mysteries have been purchased, and these all focus on the letter of the alphabet. So the first one is The Absent Author. Second one, The Bald Bandit. The Canary Caper. And The Deadly Dungeon. And on the back of each one of these, I also have the reading level. So I'm glad that I have these because even though I teach 4th grade, one of the things that you have to remember is that not every child is on the same reading level, just like not every adult is on the same reading level. So by having a variety of books in my classroom, I can cater to different reading levels and interests and hopefully get kids engaged and give them that feeling of success no matter what reading level they're at. The next 6 books that I have are all fantasy books, and these were a huge hit last year, but I only have 1 in my classroom. So I picked up these 6 so that I can get kids engaged in a series and give them access to books that they may not have access to otherwise. And that is the Wings of Fire series. The first one that I have is The Dragonette Prophecy. This is book number 1. Book number 2 is The Lost Heir. Book number 3, The Hidden Kingdom. Book number 4 is The Dark Secret. Book number 5 is The Brightest Night. And book number 6, which is the one that I think is the most beautiful, is Moon Rising. The next 3 books are pretty hefty. I know these are fairly thick for 4th graders, but the next ones that I've picked up are even bigger than that. They're pretty chunky. Not to say that I won't have children super engaged in them, because I've had kids read massive books. As long as they like the text, it doesn't matter how long the book is. The first 2 are the Mysterious Benedict Society books. These are also mysteries. Again, I needed to supplement my classroom library with more mysteries because it was one genre that I really didn't have much of. So I've got these two. I know there are more in the series. My goal is to slowly add to my classroom library as the year goes on. The next one is just the first book in a series, and I know this one is more geared towards middle grade, but I know that I'll have students who will be interested in it and want to read it. And that is the first book in the Bartimaeus trilogy, and this is The Amulet of Samarkand. This is another fantasy book. It is also one that is the beginning of a series, and I feel like I will have a lot of kids really engaged in this. One of the things that I do in my classroom at the beginning of the year is get all of my students set up with a library card. Once they have their student ID, they are automatically set up with a library card. So I get all of my kids set up with their library card linked on their computers, and I get them set up with a Libby account so that, let's say I have a reader who wants to read this book, but it's not at their level or it's not accessible to them because there's lots of words that they have never seen in print. I can get this in the audiobook form and give a child the access to a book that they may not have had access to otherwise. So the next one that I have is a little bit more of a coming of age story, which I need to supplement my slice of life or realistic fiction books in my classroom, and that is The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. This is Coyote Sunrise, and in this book she is growing up after losing her mother and sisters in a car accident. So this is a little bit more of a heartfelt read, and it is one that will help some of my students who are grieving for reasons. Maybe they did lose somebody in their family, maybe they lost a pet and it's hit them really hard. These kinds of realistic fiction where there is some character growth and development and they experience something a child can relate to is really fundamental to give them the experience that books can help them through certain times. And the last set of books that I have are all from the Who Was, What Was, Who Were, What Is series, and I will hold them up. I have a ton of these already in my classroom, so these are the ones that I don't already have. Except for Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, I'm 90% certain all of these are going to be brand new to my classroom, but I still want to show you the ones that I've purchased so far. First one, Who Was Rosa Parks? Who Was Louis Braille? Who Was Harriet Tubman? Who Was Beatrix Potter? Who is Malala Yousafzai? Where is the Bermuda Triangle? What were the Negro Leagues? What was the Underground Railroad? What was the Titanic? What was the Age of Dinosaurs? What was the Age of Exploration? What was Ellis Island? What is the Civil Rights Movement? What is climate change? What was the March on Washington? What was the Lewis and Clark expedition? What was the Great Depression? And last but not least, what was Stonewall? I was initially hesitant to purchase this book and put it in my classroom because I didn't want to face any backlash from a community that could possibly not appreciate the inclusion of LGBTQ+ history. However, not liking history doesn't mean it didn't happen. So I have this book, What Was Stonewall, and it's going to be joining my classroom library this year. I feel I do need to make it clear it is not myself that does not want this book in my classroom. I feel like this is an incredibly important historic event. I am concerned about possible parent backlash. Even though I live in a very liberal community, there is always that chance that somebody's not going to be happy with the book being included in my classroom library. That being said, I have full support from my principal, which is wonderful because it is a very important book for kids to have. One of the things that I really like about this book, because I have read it, there is a page entitled, What Does It Mean to Be LGBTQ+? And it is written in very student-friendly language. It is accessible, so I am really glad that we have this because even though I teach 4th grade, you would be surprised at the number of kids that know how they identify even before puberty. And for the past 2, maybe 3 years, I've had the conversation with my class of this is so-and-so. They identify using these pronouns and this is the name that they're going to go by. And I feel like it is really important to have student-friendly language and child-accessible language to explain really hard concepts, because it will let them know, oh, this is what's happening in the world, and now I understand it, and now I have a better connection to what's going on around me. I feel like I've picked up a few more Boxcar Children books, but they're just not here. So of course I'll have to hunt those down and double check my email, make sure I got everything. But I am going to be slowly adding more books to my classroom library this year that fit our genre projects. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me through some of the books that I've picked up for my classroom this year. I am planning to have some vlogs about my classroom go up. I am redoing all of my classroom decorating this year. We are going with a vintage NASA space theme because NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab has this beautiful vintage art that I'm going to have printed and set that up for my classroom. So we are going full space and I'm very excited about it. So I'll have more insight into my life as a teacher in the upcoming videos. I filmed already a book haul video, but I don't know what happened to it. I had a just general adult book haul video and it's somewhere. I'm going to go through all my footage today, see if I can find it. I did realize as I was filming it that I made a couple of mistakes in book titles, so maybe I'll refilm it instead if I can't find it. But that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.